There is a sound that cuts through the desert wind unlike anything else on Earth. A low mechanical hum that grows into a roar, steel against steel, weight and momentum compressed into a single point, moving faster than a camel could ever dream. The train. And yet, for most of human history, the Arabian Peninsula had no railways at all. The desert was the obstacle, the camel was the solution, and the idea of iron roads crossing seas of sand seemed, for centuries, like a dream that belonged to other continents. But dreams have a way of finding their moment. The Hejaz Railway, completed in 1908, changed everything. It was not built by Arabs alone, nor by the colonizers of that era alone. It was a project of the Ottoman Empire, stretching from Damascus all the way toward the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Pilgrims who once spent weeks on camelback crossing brutal desert terrain could now reach their destination in days. The journey shrank, the suffering shrank, but the significance of fruit. And then there are dates. The fruit that the Arabian Peninsula has given to the world for more than 6,000 years. Phoenix dactylica, the date palm, is not merely a plant, it is a civilization. Arab poets wrote about it. The Prophet Muhammad spoke of it. Archaeologists have found date pits and tombs and temples stretching back to ancient Mesopotamia. The date palm needs almost no water by the standards of other fruit trees. It thrives precisely where everything else gives up. It produces fruit in the middle of conditions that would kill almost any other crop. There is no more perfectly adapted symbol for the Arabian spirit than date. Now, these images in my mind at once. The train, a creature of iron, of precision engineering, of schedules and signals and exact moments. Date, a creature of patience, of slow ripening over months under an unforgiving sun. They seem to belong to completely different worlds. But the Arabian Peninsula, they know each other in ways that would astonish the people of even one generation ago. Saudi Arabia's vision for transport has placed railways at the center of its transformation. The Haramain high-speed railway now connects Mecca and Medina. The very cities that the Hejaz Railway once served on steam power, speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour. Pilgrims who just walk or rode camels, who waited for the slow colonial train, a sleek, modern express that crosses the same desert in a fraction of the time. The landscape is the same. The destination is the same. Smooth crossing the landscape has been utterly transformed.
And now we arrive at a word that you may not recognize unless you have encountered Japanese railway culture. Fumikiri. In Japanese, it means a level crossing, the point where a road and a railway track intersect at the same grade on the same surface without a bridge or tunnel separating them. In Japan, fumikiri crossings are everywhere. Cities, in rural towns, in the spaces between. And they are governed by a culture of absolute discipline. The gates come down, the bells ring, traffic stops, the train passes, and then life resumes. The fumikiri is not merely an infrastructure feature. In Japanese cultural consciousness, it has become a metaphor. A moment where two completely different trajectories, two worlds moving at completely different speeds are forced to acknowledge each other. You cannot ignore a fumikiri. You must stop. You must wait. You must let the other world pass through before you can continue on your own path. And there's something behind the forced pause, that mandatory acknowledgement of the other. What happens when we place these three elements together? The Arab world, the date palm, and the fumikiri? We find something unexpected. The date industry of the Arabian Peninsula has been quietly transforming itself into one of the most export-focused agricultural sectors on the planet. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Egypt together produce the vast majority of the world's dates. And increasingly, those dates are traveling by rail. The logistics networks that once moved goods by caravan and ship are being rewired with steel tracks and container cars. There is a specific kind of beauty in watching a cargo train loaded with date shipments cross a fumikiri-style level crossing somewhere along a modern freight line. The gates come down. A vehicle carrying local workers stops and waits. And passing through that intersection, slowing up the scene, that's
system of the field is a train carrying one of the world's oldest agricultural products toward a container port, toward a ship, toward cables in Tokyo and Frankfurt and Sao Paulo. Ancient and modern, patient and fast, desert and slow. The Hejaz Railway was destroyed by war. The tracks that T.E. Lawrence and the Arab Revolt disrupted in 1917 were never fully repaired. They fell into ruin and silence. There was something haunting about the ruins of that railway line, still visible in parts of Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Twisted metal, crumbling stone stations, the ghost of a network that connected the sacred geography of Islam to the modern world. It was then severed before it could fully be rebuilt. Those ruins are a fumikiri of history, a crossing that was forced to stop and never resumed.
But the story does not end in ruins. It never does in the Arabian Peninsula, where the date palm teaches a particular lesson about resilience. The date palm can survive drought, it can survive wind, it can be cut back, and it will regrow. Arab agricultural tradition holds that the date palm is so hard, so deeply rooted, so patient, it will outlast almost any disaster that comes to it. The modern Arab railway networks are being built with that same philosophy, designed not just for the needs of today, but for a vision of the next century. There is a Japanese railway term, omotenashi, which means hospitality without expectation of return. The highest quality Shinkansen service embodies this. Every detail considered, every passenger treated as if their comfort is the station's entire purpose. And there is an Arab concept, karam, which means generosity. Specifically the kind of generosity that is unconditional and offered freely, especially to guests. A bowl of dates offered to a traveler at the end of a journey. When a train stops at a station in the Arab world and passengers disembark after hours of crossing desert, the dates waiting for them are not merely a snack. They are karam-made material. Every culture has its version of the train and the date palm, the new speed and the ancient patience. Every civilization has its fumikiri moments where it must stop and let transformation pass through before deciding how to proceed. The question is never whether to modernize. The question is what you choose to carry with you across the crossing. What does not go into the container car? What rides in your hands instead of in the freight hold? What does the fumikiri teach us about the relationship between the Arab world and the global railway revolution? It teaches us about the necessity of pausing at intersections. The Gulf states have crossed a fumikiri in their own history. They stopped at the intersection of the old world and the new, waited while an overwhelming force of modernization passed through, then continued forward, carrying with them something ancient and irreplaceable. Did not disappear. The language did not disappear. The culture of hospitality, of karam, of receiving the traveler, it crossed the fumikiri intact. The date is one of the few fruits in the world that keeps almost indefinitely without refrigeration in its dried form. Traders on the ancient Silk Road carried dates as rations. Nomads crossing deserts survived on dates and camel milk for weeks. An astronaut on the International Space Station once brought Emirati dates to orbit, the same fruit that sustained desert travelers millennia ago, now floating in a spacecraft. Somewhere on Earth below, a high-speed train crosses a fumikiri at 300 kilometers per hour. The gate lifts and traffic moves again, and in the seat by the window, a passenger opens a small packet of dates. This is the story that no single frame can hold. It requires the patience of the date palm, slow growth, long roots, fruit that comes only after years of waiting. It requires the precision of the fumikiri, the exact moment, the clear signal, the world pausing to acknowledge what is passing through. And it requires the momentum of the train, the decision made long ago to lay down the tracks and begin the journey regardless of how much desert lies ahead. In the end, what crosses the fumikiri is not just a train. It is everything that was decided, built, grown, and carried to reach this exact crossing at this exact moment. If you are at your own fumikiri, standing at the intersection of who you were and who you are becoming, remember what the date palm knows. The fruit does not rush. The roots go deeper before the tree grows taller. And the train will pass. And when the gate lifts, you will continue forward, carrying what matters, leaving at the crossing only what was never truly yours to carry. Subscribe if this kind of thinking finds you where you are. And leave in the comments, what are you carrying across your fumikiri?